The sky was orange and purple, with two suns shining above. Liam Carter stood alone on the rocky surface of an unknown planet. His supply shuttle had crashed during a delivery mission. The engine had exploded mid-flight, and the emergency pod had dropped him far from the original route. Now, he was alone. The land around him was quiet. No cities, no roads, no signals. Just strange hills, twisted trees, and dust that sparkled slightly in the wind. The only sound was the wind whistling through the rocks. Liam checked his supplies: 1 water purifier, a first aid kit, and 3 food bars. That was all. His communication device was broken, and his emergency beacon was blinking red. It would take at least a month before a rescue ship noticed him, if they noticed him at all. He built a small shelter using parts of the escape pod. It wasn't much, just enough to block the wind. At night, he slept under a blanket, watching the stars through a crack in the roof. Every day, he walked around the area looking for help, signs of life or food, but the land was empty. Or so he thought. On the 4th day, he noticed something strange. While sitting outside, eating half of his second food bar, he saw movement near the rocks. 3 small figures, very thin, very quiet, stood behind a boulder, watching him. Liam froze. He didn't want to scare them. They were short, maybe up to his waist. Their skin was soft blue, and their eyes were large and glowing faintly. They didn't speak. They didn't come closer. They just watched. Carefully, Liam tore the food bar in half. Then again. He walked a few steps forward and placed a small piece on a flat rock. Then he stepped back slowly and sat down. The 3 figures stayed still for a moment. Then the smallest. One moved forward, grabbed the piece of food, and ran back behind the boulder. Liam smiled. The next day, they returned. This time, Liam greeted them with a calm voice. "Hello, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." They didn't respond, but they didn't run either. He gave them another piece of his food bar. The same thing happened. The smallest took it and ran. On the 6th day, all 3 came forward together. Liam noticed more details now. The middle child had markings on her arms, thin lines that looked like vines, softly glowing green. The eldest, a girl, had a serious face and a small bag tied around her shoulder. She didn't smile, but her eyes studied Liam carefully. "I don't have much food left," Liam said, sitting on a rock. "But you look like you need it more than I do." He broke off the last pieces of his food bar and placed them in front of him. This time all 3 took a piece and sat down a short distance away. They ate slowly, quietly. Liam didn't know if they understood his words, but they seemed to understand his kindness. That night, Liam didn't eat. He drank water and sat quietly. His stomach growled, but he didn't care. Somehow he felt less alone. The next morning, something unexpected happened. When he woke up, he found a strange fruit placed at the entrance of his shelter. It glowed faintly and smelled sweet. The 3 children were gone, but they had left the fruit behind. Liam picked it up and smiled. "Thank you," he whispered. He tasted it carefully. It was soft and juicy, unlike anything he had ever eaten. But it didn't make him sick. In fact, it gave him energy more than the food bars had. His body felt stronger. That evening, the children came again. This time, the eldest girl walked up to him alone. She looked into his eyes and drew something in the dirt. It was a spiral. Then, she pointed to her chest. Then to Liam. Liam didn't understand the meaning, but he nodded slowly. "Is that your name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she drew the spiral again, larger this time. Then she bowed. Not just a small nod, but a full, deep bow, with her head to the ground. It was a gesture of deep respect. Liam blinked, surprised and unsure what to do. He stood awkwardly and bowed slightly in return. The girl stood back up, looked at him once more, then turned and walked away with her siblings. Liam watched them disappear into the rocks. That night, he thought about everything. He had no food, no rescue, no working ship. But somehow he felt like something important was beginning. Those children weren't just wandering around. They had families, a village, a people. And now, they knew Liam. He remembered the look in the eldest girl's eyes. It wasn't fear anymore. It was trust. The sun rose slowly over the hills of the alien world. The sky glowed with soft pink light, and small winds carried warm air across the land. Liam sat outside his shelter, holding the glowing fruit the children had left behind. He took a small bite. It was sweet and refreshing. His stomach felt full for the first time in days. He looked around, hoping to see the 3 alien children again. But the land was quiet. No movement. No sound. Maybe they won't come today, Liam said to himself. But just before noon, the girl appeared again. This time she was alone. She walked calmly toward him, holding a round basket made from some kind of plant. Inside the basket were 2 more glowing fruits and something that looked like dried roots. Liam stood up and smiled. Hello again. She didn't speak, but she came close. Very close. She placed the basket gently near his feet and looked up, into his face. Her eyes were wide and shining like 2 silver moons. Liam knelt down slowly, careful not to scare her. Thank you, he said. The girl reached into the dirt again and drew the spiral symbol, the same one she had shown before. Then, to his surprise, she pointed at herself. Vela? Liam asked, guessing it might be her name. She didn't nod, but she didn't stop him either. Vela, he repeated gently. She then pointed at him. Oh, me? Liam touched his chest. Liam, she tried to copy the sound. Am. He laughed softly. That's right. Vela sat down a few feet away. Liam sat too. There was a long silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. She watched him eat the fruit with curious eyes, studying how he held it and how he chewed. Liam noticed her interest and broke off a small piece, then gave it back to her. She didn't eat it. She had brought her own, but she seemed pleased. They sat like that for a while, quiet, calm. Then, slowly, Viola reached into her bag and pulled out a small carved stone. It was shaped like a star with smooth edges. She placed it between them and pushed it toward Liam. For me? He asked. She tilted her head. He picked it up gently. It felt warm, as if it had been touched by many hands. Thank you. She stood up slowly and pointed toward the hills. Then she placed a hand on her chest and looked back at him. It was as if she was saying, I'll return. Liam nodded. Vela turned and disappeared into the rocks once again. Days passed. Each day, Viola returned. Sometimes with her siblings, sometimes alone. She always brought food, fruit, roots, and once even a kind of sweet liquid in a soft leaf cup. Liam shared stories with her, though she didn't understand his words. Still, he told her about Earth, about his little brother, about his job on the ship, and even about how scared he had been after the crash. She listened closely, eyes always on him. He also showed her things from his world, how to start a small fire using a solar lighter, how to clean water using his purifier, and how to use a compass. She watched everything, carefully, quietly. Then one evening, something changed. The wind picked up suddenly, and clouds gathered above the hills. A strong dust storm rolled across the land, and Liam rushed to cover his shelter with pieces of metal and cloth. As he was finishing, he saw movement through the dust. Vela was running toward him, alone and scared. Without thinking, Liam pulled her into the shelter and shut the door behind them. The storm raged outside, shaking the thin walls. Dust flew through every crack. Inside, Viola sat close to Liam, hugging her knees. Her hair was filled with dust and her eyes were wide with fear. Liam wrapped his only blanket around her shoulders. "It's okay. You're safe here." She didn't speak, but slowly she rested her head on his arm. They sat like that for hours, waiting for the storm to pass. When the wind finally calmed and the sky returned to soft purple, Liam opened the shelter door. The land outside was changed. Rocks had moved, and strange plants were bent or broken. Vela stepped out and looked around. She seemed calm now. She turned to Liam, knelt on one knee, and drew the spiral again. This time, she added 2 dots inside it. Liam looked at the drawing, confused. Then Vela stood, took his hand gently, and placed it over her heart. Her voice was soft, barely a whisper. "Lider." Liam didn't understand the word, but the way she said it made it feel important. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed, slowly, deeply, just like before, but this time with both hands pressed to the ground. Liam didn't know what to say. He stepped forward, helped her stand, and gave a small bow of his own. "Viola," he said, "I'm not sure what all this means, but I'm honored." Viola nodded once. Then she turned and walked away, back toward the hills. Liam watched her until she disappeared behind the rocks. The sun set behind him, casting long shadows across the land. He looked down at the spiral and the 2 dots drawn in the dirt. Something was happening. Something bigger than he could understand. He wasn't just a lost human anymore. He was part of something ancient, something silent and powerful, and the eyes that had once watched him with fear now watched him with hope. The air was still fresh after the storm. Dust clung to the rocks like a light blanket. Liam stood outside his shelter, staring at the spiral Vela had drawn the night before. The 2 dots inside the spiral still puzzled him. Was it a name? A message? A title? He didn't know. But one thing was clear. Vela had shown deep respect. She had bowed again, and her soft voice had spoken a word that stayed in his mind. Lider. Liam repeated the word to himself as he cleaned up the damage from the storm. His small shelter had held up well. The supplies were safe, and his tools were mostly untouched. By noon, the sun rose high and the land warmed up again. Liam sat in the shade of a rock, drinking purified water. That's when he heard footsteps, not 1 or 2. Many. He turned quickly. From behind the rocks, Vela walked out, but she wasn't alone. 6 adult aliens followed her, moving slowly and with care. Their skin was darker blue than the children's, and their markings glowed with soft colors, green, gold, and violet. Some had long robes made of plant fibers. Others carried wooden staffs with spirals carved into them. Liam stood up. His heart beat fast. These weren't children anymore. These were elders. He raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. Vela stepped between him and the adults. She looked back at them, then at Liam, and gave a small nod. One of the elders, a tall alien with silver vines across his arms, stepped forward. He stared at Liam quietly for a long moment. Then, using his staff, the elder drew the same spiral into the sand, only much larger. Inside the spiral, he carefully added 3 dots this time. Then, he pointed at Liam. The group waited. Liam felt unsure. "I don't understand," he said softly. Viola moved closer and pointed again at the spiral, then at Liam, then placed a hand over her chest, just like before. "Lider," she said. The word now seemed stronger, more meaningful. The elder then reached into his robe and pulled out a flat stone tablet. On it were drawings, symbols, spirals, and pictures of figures with open hands. He placed the tablet before Liam and tapped on an image. The drawing showed a being with empty hands, offering food to a group of children. Above the figure was the spiral symbol with 3 dots. Liam stared at it. His voice was quiet. "Is this me?" The elder gave the smallest nod. Liam slowly sat down. The realization was hitting him. This wasn't just kindness anymore. This was something sacred, something old. They believed he had fulfilled a story, a prophecy maybe. The drawing showed a simple act, giving food to hungry children. It was something Liam had done without thinking. He had shared his last bite, even when he had nothing left, and now they were treating him like a leader. "No, no," Liam whispered. "I'm just a man. I don't know your ways. I don't even speak your language." The group remained silent, calm, watching. Viola knelt again, placing both hands on the ground. Then, one by one, the other aliens did the same. They bowed. To him. Liam was overwhelmed. "I'm not a chief. I don't know how to lead." But no one moved. Finally, Viola stood and offered him the same carved, star-shaped stone she had given before. This time, it was tied to a woven string, like a necklace. Liam hesitated, then took it. He placed the necklace over his head. The moment he did, the wind shifted. It was light, but it felt like something spiritual, like the land itself had noticed. The elder touched his chest and gave Liam a small smile. It was the first time Liam had seen one of them show emotion. Then, the group turned and began walking toward the hills. Vela looked back and waved for Liam to follow. He gathered his pack, took one last look at the shelter he had built, and followed them into the unknown. They walked for hours through the quiet hills. Strange plants grew along the rocky paths, some glowing, some humming faintly when touched. Birds with leaf-like wings flew overhead, singing sharp, short notes. Eventually, the rocks opened up to a wide valley. There, hidden between cliffs and trees, was a village. It was beautiful. Homes were built into the cliffs, covered in moss and vines. Rope bridges connected different ledges. Crystal-like lanterns hung from wooden poles, glowing gently in the dimming light. Children ran across the pathways, stopping when they saw Liam. Adults paused their work, lifting baskets or carving stones, as they watched him enter. No one looked angry. No one looked afraid. They simply looked curious. The elder led Liam to the center of the village, where a large flat stone sat like a table. Around it were drawings, spirals, moons, stars, and the same symbol of a hand offering food. Viola stood beside him, proud and calm. The elder placed both hands on the stone and bowed once more. Then, without a word, the group around them began to hum. It was soft at first, like wind passing through leaves, then deeper, rising like a slow drumbeat. The sound echoed through the cliffs. Liam didn't know what to do, so he simply stood still and listened. As the sound filled the air, something inside him changed. He wasn't just a lost man anymore. He was part of something greater. These people, these beings, saw value not in strength, but in compassion. And in their eyes, Liam had passed a test he didn't even know existed. It wasn't made of metal or glass, like Earth's cities. Instead, it was peaceful, built into the cliffs, glowing softly under the twin suns. The homes were made from smooth stone, plants, and natural lights. Everything felt alive. Everything had meaning. The people, Viola's people, welcomed him not with loud words or music, but with quiet respect. They offered him fruit, water, and soft mats to rest. They gave him space, but they watched him with gentle eyes. He was the outsider, yet he felt accepted. Still, not everyone seemed happy. Some of the elders, especially a strong-looking one, with golden vines across his arms, watched Liam with a serious face. He did not smile. He didn't bow like the others. He simply stood near the edge of the gathering place, arms crossed. Liam noticed. Vela noticed too. That evening, as Liam sat, beside a warm fire made of blue-burning wood, Vila joined him. She brought a small clay bowl with a drink that tasted sweet and cool. They sat in silence for a while. Then Vila took a stick and drew a symbol in the dirt. A spiral again, but this time with 5 small dots around it. She pointed to the spiral, then to Liam, then to the dots. She drew a line connecting them. Liam understood slowly. They want me to guide, not just you, but all of them. Vela nodded once. He sighed. But I don't know how to lead your people. I'm just trying to survive. She looked at him with calm eyes. Then she drew a new symbol, a small open hand, with a fruit inside it. She pointed at the hand, then tapped her heart. It was not about power. It was about kindness. The next morning, a group of elders called Liam to a stone circle on the east side of the village. Vila went with him. There, he met the elder with the golden vines again. His name, as Vela gently explained through simple gestures, was Rion. Rion stepped forward and drew 3 shapes in: the dust, a tree, a spiral, and a star. Then he spoke slowly in his own language. The other elders watched carefully. Liam didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. Rion was not angry. He was testing him. Suddenly, Rion picked up a long, dry branch and walked over to a young tree growing near the edge of the cliff. The tree was bent after the storm. Rion pointed at Liam, then at the tree. Liam paused. Was this a challenge? He walked over slowly and examined the tree. It wasn't dead, but its trunk had cracked slightly. The branch Rion gave him was strong like a support beam. Liam knelt down, cleared the dirt around the base, and gently tied the tree to the branch. Using pieces of his shirt, the tree stood straighter now, protected, not forced. He stood back and nodded. Rion looked at the tree, then at Liam, and for the first time, gave a very small bow. It was a test of heart. Liam had passed. Over the next few days, Liam learned more. The village had no machines like Earth, but they had deep knowledge of nature. They knew how to grow food, gather clean water from the roots, and store energy from glowing rocks under the cliffs. Vela showed him how to listen to the plants, literally. Some gave off small sounds when touched, warning of danger or dryness. Others glowed brighter when healthy. Liam, in return, taught them how to fix tools using simple human methods, using heat to shape metal, using mirrors to create light traps for warmth, and building wind shelters for storms. One afternoon, the sky grew dark again. A heavy wind began to rise, and clouds rolled across the valley. A storm was coming. Liam acted fast. He helped the villagers cover their gardens with large leaves and stones. He showed them how to tie ropes between homes so no one would get lost in the dust. He even used pieces of his escape pod to build a barrier in front of a weak cliff path. The wind blew strong that night, but no homes were damaged. No plants were lost. The people cheered softly the next morning. Some clapped gently, others tapped their staffs on the ground in thanks. Even Rion gave Liam a nod. Vila smiled. That evening, the village gathered near the stone circle again. Fires burned low. The stars above were bright. The twin moons were rising. Rion stood and spoke to the people. His voice was strong but calm. Vela translated the simple words for Liam using hand signs and short phrases. Old ways, test heart. Kindness, not weak. New voice. From stars. Then Rion turned to Liam, stepped forward and placed a carved stone in his hand. It was shaped like the spiral but with 4 dots. Liam looked at it, then at the villagers. They began to hum. The same soft song he had heard during the first welcome. The sound grew, like wind through trees, deep and peaceful. Vela placed her hand over her heart. You, Dare now. Liam didn't speak. He didn't know what to say. But in his heart he knew. He hadn't chosen this path. He hadn't planned to lead. But sometimes leadership finds the ones who give, not the ones who take. That night, Liam stood alone at the edge of the cliff. Below, the glowing village lights danced like stars in the trees. He held the spiral stone in his hand. He looked up at the real stars, far above. "I came here with nothing," he whispered. "But I was never truly alone." And now he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of this world, not because of power, not because of strength, but because one day he gave his last bite of food, and a child saw a leader in him. Days turned into weeks. Liam no longer counted time by Earth's hours. He now followed the rhythm of the two suns, the glowing plants, and the soft songs of the alien wind. The villagers had accepted him. Children greeted him with hand signs and small gifts. Stones shaped like stars, flowers that opened when touched. Elders invited him to their quiet meetings, where they spoke slowly, drawing symbols in the dirt and explaining the old ways with simple words. Liam listened. He learned, and in return, he gave. He taught them how to build stronger roofs using flat stones and plant glue. He helped repair their broken water system by building a funnel from metal and bark. He showed them how to dry food for storage in storm season. Vela stayed close to him. She no longer bowed. She walked beside him now, not behind. She was no longer just the quiet girl with big eyes. She was becoming a leader, too. But everything changed the day the sky lit up with a silver trail. Liam was helping a young villager build a shelter wall when he saw it. A bright white line streaked across the sky, fast and long. It curved over the hills and disappeared beyond the cliffs. He stood still, eyes wide. Only one thing looked like that, a human ship. His heart began to race. They found me. The rescue signal he had sent weeks ago. It had worked. The villagers looked at the sky, confused but not afraid. They had never seen such a light before. Vela stepped beside him. "Sky? Calling?" Liam nodded. "It's my people." He didn't know what to feel. Relief? Joy? Worry? He had dreamed of this moment. But now that it was real, his heart felt heavy. That night, he sat alone near the cliff edge. The carved spiral stone still hung around his neck. He looked at it, then at the stars. Would he leave? Could he? Viola joined him after a while. She sat, in silence, as always. Then she asked softly, "Home?" Liam took a deep breath. "That was home. Before I came here." She tilted her head. "Now?" He looked at the glowing village below, the people, the cliffs, the soft lights. He didn't answer. The next morning, a small scout ship landed in the open valley nearby. Dust rose as the ship's legs touched the ground. 2 humans stepped out, one man and one woman, wearing white suits with blue lights on their shoulders. They looked around carefully, holding scanners. Liam approached them slowly, hands raised. They turned fast, surprised. But their faces changed when they saw him. "Liam Carter?" the woman asked. He smiled. "That's me." "You're alive," the man said. "We didn't think anyone survived the crash." "I was lucky," Liam replied. He looked behind him. Viola and a few villagers were watching from a distance, quiet and curious. The woman glanced at them. "Locals?" "Yes. They found me and saved me." The man looked surprised. You've been living with them all this time? Not just living, Liam said. Learning, helping. They're peaceful, kind. The woman tapped her communicator. HQ, this is Scout Team Alpha. We've located the missing engineer. He's safe. Liam's heart tightened. He was safe. But was he ready to leave? Later that day, the humans invited Liam inside their ship to check his health and scan for any illness. He passed every test. We'll take you home, the man said. A full transport ship will arrive in 2 days. Liam nodded but didn't smile. Outside the window, he saw Viola waiting. He stepped out and walked to her. I can go back, he said softly. To Earth. Viola looked down. Then she reached into her bag and took out a small round stone with a star symbol carved into it. She placed it in his hand. Then she looked into his eyes and said, You are home now. The words were simple, but they broke something inside him. That evening, the village gathered again, not for a ceremony, but for a quiet farewell. They knew. Liam stood before them, Viola beside him, Rion and the elders around the fire. He spoke, slowly, using simple words and signs. I did not plan to come here. I did not know your ways, but you gave me food, shelter, and something more. You gave me trust. He looked at the children. I gave you my last bite of food, but you gave me more in return. He looked at Vela. I found a home here, a reason. Then he held up the stone Vela had given him. I came from the stars, but now I belong to the earth. There was silence. Then, slowly, one by one, the villagers bowed, not because he was leaving, but because he had chosen to stay. Liam made his choice the next morning. He walked to the scout team and handed them a message disc. Give this to Earth Command, he said. Tell them I'm alive, but I'm not coming back yet. The man was shocked. You're refusing rescue? I'm not in danger. These people, they need a bridge to our world. I can be that. The woman looked at him. Are you sure? Liam looked over his shoulder where Vela and the children waited under a tree. Yes, he said with a soft smile. This is where I'm needed. As the scout ship rose into the sky and disappeared, Liam stood on the cliff once more. Beside him, Viola smiled. He held the star stone in one hand and the spiral necklace in the other. I'm not a visitor anymore, he said. You are Leader, Viola whispered. He nodded, but he didn't lead with commands. He led with kindness. And now, with one foot in each world, Liam had become something new, a bridge between stars and soil. The twin suns continued to rise and fall across the sky, painting the land in soft gold and purple. The seasons changed, new plants bloomed. The air carried a different scent, fresh and full of life. Liam had become a part of the village, not as an outsider, not as a visitor, but as one of them. They called him Leader, the one who leads with heart, not strength. He had not chosen that title. It had been given to him by a child, remembered by the people, and accepted by the land. Liam now lived in a small home built into the cliffside, just like the others. Its walls were smooth stone, its roof covered in thick leaves that kept out the sun and wind. A small garden grew at his door, with glowing fruits and soft root plants Vela had helped him plant. Every morning Liam walked through the village, not as a ruler, but as a helper. He greeted the children with warm smiles. They laughed and followed him, copying his steps and calling out his name. He helped the elders carry water, fix tools, and draw teaching maps in the dust. He taught the young ones how to build shelter, collect rain, and listen to the sound of the roots underground. And he still wore the spiral stone around his neck, not because it gave him power, but because it reminded him of a promise, to lead by kindness. Vela had changed too. She was no longer the quiet, shy girl watching from behind rocks. She walked beside Liam, her head held high. She had become his voice, his student, and his partner. She learned to speak more human words, and Liam slowly picked up her language too. Together they worked to help both worlds understand each other. She asked questions about Earth, about its people, its skies, its oceans. "Do your stars look like ours?" she asked once. "They shine the same," Liam said. "But the people, they don't always listen," Viola had smiled. "Then teach them." One clear night a signal came from the sky. A human ship passed above, low and slow. It didn't land, but it sent a soft, blinking light toward the ground. It was a message. "We see you." Liam had smiled. Earth hadn't forgotten him, but they respected his choice. He sent back a signal of his own, a simple one, a spiral with 2 dots. It was his new name, his new life. In time, humans began to visit. Carefully, kindly, they came in peace. They brought tools, seeds, books, and light machines to help the village grow. But they didn't lead. They learned. They sat with the elders. They walked with the children. They listened to Viola as she explained the meaning of the spiral and the story of the man who had given his last bite to hungry children. The humans were surprised. They thought the story was about weakness. But the villagers knew the truth. It was about trust, and trust, once given, could change a world. Liam stood one evening at the center of the village. Around him, the people gathered, not for ceremony, not for farewell, but for something new, a sharing. In the center of the stone circle, 2 fires burned, one with wood from Earth, one with wood from this planet. Liam stepped forward. In one hand, he held a star-shaped stone given by Vela long ago. In the other, a small carved spiral made by the youngest village child. He spoke in both languages, simple, slow, but clear. "We are different," he said, "but we have the same heart. We eat. We learn. We care. We grow stronger not by fighting, but by sharing." He looked at the children. "The future is yours." Then he gave the stones to 2 young students, one human, one alien. They bowed to each other. The crowd clapped softly. It was not loud, but it was powerful. Later that night, Liam sat by the cliff again. Viola sat beside him, watching the stars. "You led them well," she said. "I didn't lead," Liam answered. "I just listened and helped." She smiled. "That is what real leaders do." They sat in silence, the wind brushing their faces. Below them, the village lights glowed like stars trapped in the earth. Above them, real stars sparkled in the sky, 2 worlds. One path. As the days continued, more changes came. New homes were built. New gardens grew. Children learned both languages. Stories were written, on stone, on paper, and in the minds of those who would carry them forward. Liam never sat on a throne. He never gave commands. He walked, worked, and taught. And when he grew tired, he rested under the same tree where Viola had first given him fruit. The spiral was carved into its bark now, not as a symbol of power, but as a memory of a simple act. One bite, freely given. That was where it had all begun, and in the quiet hearts of those who followed, it would never be forgotten.